It's a historic day for Southern Alberta, the City of Lethbridge, and Lethbridge District Exhibition. A couple of elements of housekeeping to take care of some business before we commence. First, I would like to remind everyone of the severity of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and we ask that everyone abide by the restrictions that we have put in place. Secondly, I would like to remind everyone that we are on an active construction site, so we do ask for your own safety that you wear the PPE that has been supplied until you've safely left the site. To formally commence today's ceremonies, I would like to introduce Blood Tribe Elder Katomaka to offer a Blackfoot prayer and smudge. Thank you very much, Tom. I would now like to introduce someone who has been a true champion behind this day since he took office, MLA for Lethbridge East, Nathan Neudorf, to bring some greetings virtually, as well as introduce the Premier Jason Kenney. I do have MLA Neudorf's notes here to read in the event that we couldn't hear from him. I would like to thank Tom Littlebear for his prayer and his smudge. I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people and pay respect to them, past, present, and future, while recognizing and respecting their heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. We also recognize this as home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Today, we celebrate the groundbreaking of a project that has been 18 years in the making. First capital project the Premier announced under his recovery plan, with strength and stability, strengthening and stabilizing our agriculture superpower sector. This, along with strategic funding for the airport, Highway 3, the irrigation projects in Southern Alberta, the University of Lethbridge, Lethbridge College, as well as Agri-research and the broadband project. Lethbridge is poised to lead the province and country in economic growth, and this is a platform to strengthen our international and our interprovincial relations through Council of State Governments West and Midwest. The world needs more of Alberta. I would like to thank someone who has worked exceptionally hard. Today is a 12-hour commitment for him on top of all the hours of strategic planning to pull these things together. I would like to welcome the Honourable Jason Kenney, Premier of Alberta.
Thanks very much. Cheers. Thank you very much, Mike. Okay. Thank you, Tom, for your opening prayer, for starting us in a good way, and for welcoming us to traditional Blackfoot territory. And thanks to all of the dignitaries, but most importantly today, to my good friend, Member of Parliament, Rachael Harder. And let me take this opportunity to congratulate her on the announcement yesterday of her engagement. And it was a big surprise to me because she got engaged to a good friend of mine, and I didn't even know they were dating. You guys are very discreet. Victor and Rachael are going to make a wonderful Alberta family. I'm so happy for you. To MLA Neudorf in absentia, couldn't be here today, but we do have Big Joe Schow from Cardston-Siksika, and your worship and all of the people representing the exhibition, City Council, and the community. Thank you for being here for an exciting day. Before I get to today's business, I do want to just make a couple of other notes. I came down here partly today to survey the damage of the wildfires in southern Alberta this past weekend. I just stopped in Carmangay which sadly lost their historic hotel, a real symbolic heart of the community, on early Sunday morning in a devastating fire. And then just a few hours later, they had to evacuate the village because of the wildfires blowing up in Vulcan County and in other areas, including in the Kainai Reserve. I just wanted to say thank you to all the first responders, especially those rural volunteer fire departments that sprung into action in a classic Alberta fashion. They told me today that more volunteers showed up that they could use, and they had to turn some of the volunteers away. What a beautiful expression of Alberta's community spirit. Thank goodness no one was hurt in these fires on Sunday, but there was some property loss, and our thoughts go out to those who have been affected, and we are also working, Tom, with Chief Roy Fox in terms of the damage that may have been done on the Blackfoot Reserve here. So just kudos to the whole community for coming together, as always. Secondly, I came down, apart from today's this afternoon's announcement, to meet with local officials, including Mayor Spearman, to discuss the concern about the COVID outbreak here in Lethbridge and region over the past few weeks. And I will be meeting later today with the South Zone Medical Officer for Health, Dr. Vivian Surtap, and Dr. Aaron Lowe, the South Zone Medical Director, as well as the Mayor, just to get kind of an eyes-on view of what's happening here locally. I think there has been some encouraging flattening of the curve here in the past few days, and we hope that that will continue. But let me turn to this afternoon's business. It feels like just yesterday that I was here in Lethbridge at the X announcing the amazing investment from not at the X, but just outside the city, from the Irving family here in Alberta's agricultural heartland. Cavendish Potatoes opened their new agri-food processing plant right here in Lethbridge on October 3rd of 2019. Representing a $425 million investment and 115 direct and indirect jobs right here in southern Alberta. Congratulations to Chris and his team for landing that investment after a lot of hard work. And I'm excited to be here today for an historic groundbreaking. It's more good news for the city of Lethbridge and Alberta's critical agri-food and farm sector. Alberta taxpayers spent $27.8 million in Exhibition Park to get this construction of Lethbridge's very own agri-food hub underway. As part of the larger redevelopment, the agri-food hub will serve as an anchor for growth in Lethbridge's value-added food sector while continuing to diversify Alberta's economy and providing a local market for farmers in southern Alberta. This is truly good news that comes at a time when our province needs good news. This investment is a great example of Alberta's recovery plan at work. As we continue to diversify our economy with the success in the agri-food sector, this investment means more jobs right here in Lethbridge and more investment for the entire southern Alberta region and our province. The redevelopment will generate over 400 good-paying construction jobs and 50 permanent full-time jobs after construction is done. The economic impact will grow as time goes on, starting at an already massive $74 million to more than $90 million. This project increases the space available for food production from just 800 to 12,000 square feet, more than a 1,500% increase. And it means even more possibilities for practical learning experience for students at Lethbridge College, for example, in their ag and culinary programs, which are world-class. This long overdue investment will allow the X the economic impact of the Lethbridge X to grow even more, serving thousands here in the city and surrounding areas. Lethbridge is part of Canada's premier food corridor, and that's why we're here working to create new opportunities, diversify the economy, and expand southern Alberta's agri-food sector. This is key to creating good jobs both today when we need them, as we emerge from the crisis, and in the face of challenges that our economy has experienced for the past several years. Today's announcement is another step in Alberta's recovery plan, as I said before, a bold plan to build, to diversify, and to create new jobs. That involves the largest ever investments in capital spending, in infrastructure, in building the architecture of our future economy. $10 billion in the fiscal year we're ending tomorrow, and another $21 billion over the next 3 years. And that's in addition to so much more, like the $840 million investment we brought together with local irrigation authorities and Canada's Infrastructure Bank for the biggest modernization of Alberta irrigation infrastructure in 6 decades. That is going to be a game changer for farmers in this part of the province that will feed the growing food processing sector in this city. It's on top of the policies to really renew that Alberta advantage as a magnet for job-creating investment through the acceleration of Alberta's job creation tax cut, the red tape reduction initiative, and so much more, including the sector strategies, which see us. I mean, it's been a tough year, but this is an exciting time. Perhaps the best year in Alberta agriculture, with strong yields last year, very strong prices this year. The best year ever in our forestry industry, with the best lumber prices on record. The best year ever for tech startups and venture capital investments. We doubled the amount of venture capital being invested in our province last year, and we're off to the strongest year ever with information technology startups. Just announced a major global company moving hundreds of jobs to create a real presence in Alberta. And Chris, I want you to know that within a day of that announcement, we got a call from another major global information technology company saying that they are eyeing Lethbridge and Medicine Hat for potentially hundreds of high-paying IT jobs. We're hitting our stride on diversification. And on that note, I am pleased to highlight the news that broke a little prematurely last night, that Alberta has been selected as the site for the production of the major blockbuster HBO production, The Last of Us. It is one of the, we believe, largest TV and film productions ever to happen in Canada. It is very likely going to be a major multi-year series produced here in southern Alberta. It will create hundreds of good jobs, and it will be a leap forward for our media industry, for film and television in this province. Just wait for the exciting details in the formal announcement when we're ready with HBO in a little bit. With that, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Lethbridge, for helping to lead Alberta in economic growth. You've been ahead of the curve, and you continue to play that role. I look forward to coming here for the ribbon cutting when this big project is done, and we're taking another big step forward for Alberta's ag industry and this fantastic community. Thank you very much.
We thought we were going to get away without any wind today. Oh. Thank you very much, Premier Kenney. Very exciting news. Thank you to MLA Neudorf as well, who couldn't be here. Premier Kenney, we cannot thank you enough for the countless time and everything you've put into this project and the importance that you've put on it. We truly appreciate that, and we truly appreciate you taking some time to be here with us today. It's a mere 20 months from today that we'll look forward to welcoming you back to cut a ribbon. I would also like to mention that MLA Neudorf will make himself available for any questions or comments following today's events. It's now my pleasure to introduce a special guest today, MLA Schow, MLA for Cardston-Siksika.
Well, thank you, Premier. Thank you, Mayor Spearman, for being here. Reeve, Hickey, MP Rachael Harder, and everyone else who is taking part of this monumentous occasion. I will keep my remarks brief because even with masks on, we can only consume so much dust. But it is indeed a historic occasion, so historic I've even seen the Gophers out here excited. But this is truly a monumentous occasion. and it's proof of the commitment of the government to agri-food and trade in this part of the province. As MLA for Cardston-Siksika, you don't have to convince me the importance of agriculture. We have the highest farm gate sales in this province, which means we feed Alberta and we feed the country. And I'm so honored to be part of a government that takes our commitment to agriculture very seriously, including this tremendous investment right here in southern Alberta. So thank you everyone for being here, and I look forward to the ribbon cutting as well with the Premier.
It is now my pleasure to introduce the Honourable Rachael Harder, Member of Parliament for Lethbridge.
Mike? Thank you. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. A special welcome to Premier Kenney, to MLA Schow, MLA Neudorf, Reeve Hickey, Mayor Spearman, and the Lethbridge Exhibition team. It's certainly an honor to be with you today and a pleasure to celebrate this momentous occasion. I truly believe that agriculture is Canada's superpower, contributing more than $100 billion to our nation's economy and directly employing 12% of Canada's workforce. As we prepare to emerge from the pandemic, agriculture should be at the forefront of our recovery efforts. As Canada's superpower and a global powerhouse, I believe agriculture is worthy of our focus, it is worthy of our investment, and it is certainly worthy of our promotion. It should be given center stage as we look to our future. As we look ahead, Lethbridge Exhibition Park will not only play a key role in celebrating and promoting agriculture, but in bringing the community together in ways that are extremely key to our growth and our sustainability as a region. I'm talking about key partnerships such as the Lethbridge College, or key partnerships with industry stakeholders. I'm talking about world-class events being hosted right here on this land. I'm talking about creating a buzz among young people, getting the next generation excited about agriculture. Agriculture here in southern Alberta, but agriculture writ large. It is a significant part of our future. I'd like to express sincere gratitude to the board and the staff of Lethbridge Exhibition Park for their incredible work in conceptualizing and advocating for the Exsolution project. The exhibition team will undoubtedly continue to accomplish great things for our community with this exciting change. And with that, of course, we've welcomed a new president in Bev. Thank you to the Premier, to Minister Dreeshen, and to the other MLAs who are here with us today for their advocacy and their support for this important project. Thank you to Mayor Spearman and City Council for being key financial partner in this initiative. Thank you to all of you for being here, to the reporters for making sure that this story makes it into the news waves tonight. It's important for us to celebrate these key moments in our community.
Thank you, Rachael. Rachael has certainly taken up the call of this project in front of her many colleagues in Ottawa, and I would like to sincerely thank her for that, and I will continue to lean on her to push those colleagues in Ottawa. Now, a gentleman that has been part of the discussions on this project for a long time, whose involvement and guidance has made today possible, His Worship Chris Spearman, Mayor of Lethbridge.
Got to give more speeches. Out of practice. Okay. Thank you, Tom. Great to see you here today. Thank you, Premier. Thank you, MLA Schow. We miss MLA Neudorf today. Thank you, MP Rachael Harder, Reeve Hickey, our guests from Alberta Tourism, Dave and Bev Lanz. Thank you. Greetings and welcome to all honored guests. We do acknowledge, and I share, that we are on the territory of the Blackfoot people, and wonderful to have their presence here today. The Lethbridge Exhibition will celebrate its 125th anniversary in the year 2022. What a year that will be. Many years of dreaming will see a vision become reality. This vision is one that the community was eager to get behind. Today we celebrate as we break ground for the new Agri-food hub and trade center at Exhibition Park. The Agri-food hub and trade center is going to ignite economic growth, not just for Lethbridge and the southern Alberta economy, but also for Canada's agricultural industry. Showcasing southern Alberta's value-added products will create interest nationally and from around the world in Canada's premier food corridor. The project will be a catalyst that will generate new investment in our city and our region, more direct flights to our airport, and increased demand for hotel and convention space. It will encourage other industries to invest in our city and region. It will trigger work experiences and quality employment opportunities for students and graduates of Lethbridge College and University of Lethbridge. This investment in the new Agri-food hub and trade center at Exhibition Park will support and enhance our reputation as a gateway to opportunity for students, businesses, and investors. Persistence, partnership, and determination are what brought us here today. We truly are brighter together, and I want to talk about that partnership. In October of 2019, or last summer, we welcomed Alberta government's investment, thank you Premier, of $27.8 million in this project. And thank you, MLA Neudorf, for your efforts and for the support of your colleagues. The City of Lethbridge was determined to assist Lethbridge Exhibition in making this project viable sooner rather than later by purchasing from them highway property held in reserve for development in the longer term. We also approved funding in the amount of $25 million and forgave an existing $3.8 million loan. Additional support was provided through a new 30-year municipal loan in the amount of $17.8 million, which sealed the deal. By working together, we have accelerated this project and brought great pride and excitement for the future of our city. And we're thrilled to be moving forward without any additional impacts to taxpayers. We've managed to have a zero tax increase last year, a zero tax increase this year, and we've provided for a zero tax increase next year while continuing to invest in our city. Congratulations and thank you to the hundreds of board members, community partners, staff and volunteers, past and present, who have played a role in keeping the Lethbridge and District Exhibition the place where Southern Alberta comes together to celebrate all that makes us unique. The world will always need food. We're positioned to succeed. Today, we welcome and thank all who made this project possible. So today, we celebrate. Next, we welcome the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Spearman. We look forward to inviting you back as a friend of Lethbridge and District Exhibition when we throw open the doors to this new center. Next, I'd like to introduce a gentleman that not only serves the surrounding communities within Lethbridge County, but has also served as a past president of our Board of Directors at Lethbridge and District Exhibition, His Worship Reeve Hickey of Lethbridge County.
Thank you very much, Mike. Premier Kenney, MLA Schow, Neudorf, MP Rachael Harder, Alberta Tourism, and of course Bev Lanz, the chair. I think this project has been a long time in the making and a long time coming. And as you heard today, the importance to agriculture, but also the importance to Alberta to showcase what Alberta has to offer other than food. At Lethbridge County, we have the largest GDP of any rural municipality in the province of Alberta, and are very proud to have a very diversified economy through livestock and chickens, pork. But we also now have an opportunity to even further that by the incentives given by this province to redevelopment of irrigation and to the potato factory which is coming, and I'm sure there'll be many others come. But this facility is going to put us over the edge by having the ability now to have world-class conferences here and showcase what we have to offer, when we can deliver, and how we can deliver it effectively, on time, and safely. So as again, I would really like to thank the tremendous effort that has been put forth by the exhibition to make this step forward, and we all look forward to the future years. Thank you.
Thank you, Reeve Hickey. It's always a pleasure, and we very much appreciate your continued support. It's now my pleasure to introduce the new Chief Executive Officer of Travel Alberta, Mr. David Goldstein.
I didn't recognize you. Behind the glasses and the mask. Holy smokes. 25. That might age me.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege to be here, especially amongst these dignitaries. When I got the invitation from Mike and Bev, and thank you very much for inviting me. I didn't realize I was going to be the closing act, but I'm really pleased to be here. This Travel Alberta, as you may know, is the custodian Crown Corporation responsible for stimulating Alberta's visitor economy, which pre-pandemic was almost $9 billion. There is no doubt that this crisis has hit our sector hard, but days like today and events like this really give us a sense of celebration and hope as we rebuild that sector of the Alberta economy, because it's projects like this that are going to be a huge stimulus, not just for Lethbridge and the surrounding area, but will be a beacon for national and international events that will bring customers from all over the world. It's probably an interesting thing to note that a trade show or festival guest will spend between 2 and 3 times more than just a leisure traveler. So this is exactly the type of piece of infrastructure. In fact, I would say the next jewel of the Alberta crown and part of the Alberta experience. And we're very excited to work with the team here to make sure that once the facility is up and running, it's going to be full. So thank you very much. I'd be remiss if I didn't. The Premier had mentioned the recovery plan. Of course, Travel Alberta has been an important part of that recovery plan, specifically with investments to work with projects like this. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Good to see you.
Thank you, David. We look forward to growing our partnership with Travel Alberta. Last and certainly not least, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who has taken the lead of our organization in the past few months, especially through our connections with our extended communities. Someone who has been a mentor and a friend, Miss Bev Lanz, President of the Board of Directors for Lethbridge District Exhibition.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Tom Littlebear, for starting this day with gifts from Mother Earth that cleansed our souls of negative thoughts. It's a pleasure to be outdoors, enjoying the sunshine and I've written wind and breeze because I didn't know what it was going to be, so I'll say breeze. Spring is just around the corner. Premier Kenney, thank you. We are thrilled to break the ground on this project. The Agri-food Hub and Trade Centre exemplifies what the Government of Alberta sees as the future of agriculture. The role of ag societies in the province is critical in supporting community and agriculture and field to plate. In a perfect non-COVID world, today we would be enjoying some of the world's finest food produced here in southern Alberta. But of course it's not possible today, but we will gather and we will eat together when we can. Specifically, Premier Kenney, thank you for your financial support for this project. I'm humbled today when I watch the stream of cars entering the North Gate. It is clear to me one of the important roles of the Lethbridge District Exhibition is to host a location that citizens can come to get their life-altering COVID vaccine shots. Mayor Spearman, thank you. Thank you for being a tireless champion of this project. Having the vision to support the Lethbridge District Exhibition shows how much the City of Lethbridge values the contribution that Exhibition Park makes. Past board presidents, for 18 years, you have been committed to seeing this project to fruition. There's been a lot of heavy lifting, and personally, I want to say thank you. Clearly, without your tenacity and commitment, your grit, we would not be celebrating today. As president, on behalf of the board of directors, I am pleased to say welcome to the sod turning of the Agri-food Hub and Trade Centre. Got it. Takes the art of speech making to hold them up.
Thank you, Bev. I truly can't thank you enough for your leadership and your friendship and guidance. Now, before we take questions and answers and grab our shovels, I want to acknowledge the countless hours, days, and years that have gone into making today a reality. Over 100 years ago, local leaders stood on this very piece of land and selected it as the location to showcase the abundance of natural agricultural resources that southern Alberta has to the world with the Dry Farming Congress in 1912. Today, through a unique shared vision of the leadership group that stands before you, we once again are rewriting those history books, showcasing the distinct advantages that make this region such an incredible resource to the global economies, and again, inviting the world to our doorsteps. Thank you very much. We will now do a brief question and answer period.
Go ahead.
Eloise Terrian, Global News. I have two questions for Premier Kenney, please. Premier Kenney, what are your thoughts on restrictions ahead of Easter weekend? Trudeau and Premier Doug Ford have already asked people not to get together, with Ford kind of hinting more restrictions could be put in Ontario. So what are your thoughts?
Thanks. And what's the other question?
The other question is your thoughts on the negative feedback to Alberta's K-12 curriculum. The province is making changes already before the public feedback period is closed, so is that a reflection of the early negative pushback?
So, first of all, I'll be speaking about our concerns on the growing COVID numbers with Dr. Hinshaw tomorrow afternoon. And we should be concerned because, we've seen the numbers come way down thanks to the good efforts of Albertans since before Christmas. We've seen the death rate come way down because of the vaccination of the elderly and the vulnerable. Unfortunately, the new variant is driving cases up on a younger population, and this variant can have a much more severe health impact on younger people. So this is a wake-up call for all Albertans. We can see the end of this thing. We are vaccinating tens of thousands of people every week. We've vaccinated we've delivered over 600,000 doses, and we're waiting for more supplies. We continue to be held back by the federal government's failure to secure adequate doses. Now, having said that, the end is in sight, but we need to get through the last 10 minutes of the game here. We can see the end, but we have to finish this strongly without imposing massive pressure on our hospital system. So I would plead with Albertans, please be very careful and follow the public health guidelines and the restrictions in place. We think a lot of the spread that's happening now is because people have become tired of all of this. They've either kind of forgotten about the guidelines or they've just wished them away. We'd ask people, especially with Easter and the spring holidays coming up, to focus on, if you can, stay at home. Please don't socialize outside of your family group or your close contact cohort. The vast majority of transmission happens at home. If you can't self-isolate at home, please take us up on our offer for a free self-isolation support at hotels. We're also offering financial incentives for that. If you can't safely self-isolate at home. And let's just please buckle down in the next month or so to get us through this without threatening our hospital system. It's critically important. On the curriculum, actually, I am very happy to see widespread endorsements of this curriculum from parents, from subject matter experts, from First Nations leaders, cultural community leaders, and many more. Our government was elected on a commitment to consult broadly and openly on the development of a curriculum that will place the focus on key knowledge and skills. That's exactly what this curriculum does. We have seen a unacceptable decline in math outcomes where Alberta students have been falling behind the rest of the world, in part because our curriculum got tied up with the failure of things like discovery math. This curriculum brings us back to tried, true, and tested teaching methods like basic math skills, algorithms, phonics in English language instruction, and it gets us back to actually imparting knowledge to young people about our who we are as a society and where we came from. It does so in a very balanced way. There's more recognition by far, for example, of the history of First Nations and different ethnic, cultural, and faith communities in this curriculum than in any curriculum in our history. This is this first year. What we just released is the draft K-6 curriculum. I underline it is a draft curriculum, meaning it's there to get feedback, and there will be changes. And we're eager to hear from parents, teachers, subject matter experts, and others about how it can be improved. But the key goal must be maintained, which is to significantly improve knowledge and skills for students now and in the future. And I'll stand here in case the next one's for me.
Yeah, this one is for you.
Okay.
Connor Gunn from Lethbridge News Now. I was wondering if you had an estimate. I know it's hard to put a number on but what will this project do for the local economy, like especially in Lethbridge here?
Well, I think the estimate is upwards of $90 million of additional contribution to the local economy in this region. And obviously there's the short-term construction jobs, which are good-paying jobs. And as I've mentioned, that's going to create, about 300 construction jobs in this project. And then, of course, once this is done, it is going to have a very significant effect on two industries, agriculture and tourism. And that's why 400 construction jobs, not 300, and 50 permanent full-time jobs after construction is complete. As I say, an estimated $90 million contribution to the economy. This is going to be a showcase for Alberta's ag industry to the world. And there's going to be major trade shows coming here with a huge amount of new, modern, more usable space that will allow David to go to work attracting conventions that maybe have not experienced Southern Alberta, particularly, but not exclusively in the agri-food sector. That will help tourism, because a lot of those business people that come here to show their wares or to learn about the ag products in this part of Canada will stay in Alberta. They'll do local tourism. They'll go up to the mountains. So there will be a huge multiplication factor in terms of economic opportunity as we link ag and tourism through this new centre. Is that a fair summary, Mike?
So I think we will go to the phones for our next question. Operator, can you please put through our next caller?
The operator, just confirming that you can hear me.
Yes.
We can hear you here, operator.
First question is Don Braid with the Calgary Herald. Go ahead, Don.
About the doctor's deal that failed last night, I wonder what your reaction is. I wonder if you will commit to, well, talks go on, presumably toward a deal. Again, you'll commit to sticking by the terms of what has just been rejected. I don't know if that would be in your mind to do that or not. And thirdly, I wonder if you could reflect, if you care to, on whether you want a change in health minister after all of the, it's gotten very personal, let's put it that way. I wonder if you have any plans in that direction.
Well, Don, obviously we're disappointed that the deal was narrowly rejected. I understand it was something like a 52-48 vote with 40% of doctors not participating. And we absolutely want to sit down with the Medical Association and to continue the momentum that we had going into this agreement. I think both sides recognize that there were good faith negotiations, compromises made on both sides. And as I've always said, we honor and value our physicians enormously, the contribution they make. They must be compensated not just fairly, but generously. We want to train and retain some of the world's best physicians and look forward to a collaborative relationship with the Alberta Medical Association to achieve that goal, while at the same time recognizing that Alberta is in the midst of a real fiscal crisis, an $18 billion deficit, and 5 tough years in our economy. Our economy is about 20% smaller than it was back in 2014, and yet compensation costs in that part of Medicare have gone up far, far faster than inflation and population growth. And so I believe the leadership of the Medical Association understands that we need to be able to manage costs in an area that represents a quarter of the healthcare budget and 10% of all of the money spent by Alberta's government. I'll say Minister Shander has my full 100% confidence. Being Minister of Health is always the toughest job in any provincial government. That is particularly the case during an historic pandemic of this nature and at a time when we have to manage our costs. And I think he's worked, he's made tremendous efforts to demonstrate flexibility. We did that with the very generous package for retention of rural physicians, by dropping some of our initial requests, including around complex modifiers, for example, and coming to what we thought was a solid agreement. So we'll both the sides will take some time to reflect on the results, and I know that Minister Chandra hopes to be able to sit down with the President and representatives of the association in the near future to discuss a path forward.
Operator, can you please put through our next caller?
Next is Ashley Joannou with Post Media Edmonton. Go ahead, Ashley.
Hi, good afternoon. This is a question for the Premier. I'm going to react to a bit of Don's last question. There has been a lot of bad blood that has built up between Minister Chandra and the doctors. Do you think that contributed to the vote? And do you think it would be easier to get a deal in place if someone else was in charge of the health department?
I'm sorry, Ashley, I'll just repeat my answer. Tyler Chandra has my full confidence. He has taken on an incredibly tough job, especially through this pandemic. The reality is that Alberta has an $18 billion deficit, by far the largest in our history. We have not run a surplus in this province for nearly a decade. We are rocketing towards an unsustainable debt. Our economy has shrunk by 1/5, and yet physician compensation costs were growing by about 6% a year at a level that simply could not be sustained by a shrinking economy with a growing debt. And so it's incumbent on any Alberta government to better manage those costs, but to do so in a way that respects the critical role of our world-class physicians, to pay them fairly and indeed generously. That was, I think, the basis of the agreement that was achieved, that was agreed to by the board of the Alberta Medical Association. It's unfortunate that the agreement wasn't ratified yesterday. It was a very close vote, I understand, and I understand about 40% of physicians didn't vote in it, but we respect the decision, and we look forward to sitting down with the AMA when they're ready to do so to discuss a constructive path forward.
Okay, we have time for 2 more questions. Operator, can you please put through our next caller?
This is Audrey Naveau with Radio Canada. Go ahead, Audrey.
Hi, I have a question for Premier Kenney in French. J'ai en fait une question et une deuxième sur un autre sujet. Monsieur le Premier ministre, est-ce que vous avez encore confiance dans le ministre Chandra dans le dossier des négociations avec les médecins?
So question that I'm just translating for the non-French speakers here and watching online. The question was just essentially the same as the last two, but in French. Oui, j'ai entièrement la confiance dans le ministre Chandra qui a fait, je crois, une job remarquable pendant une crise sans précédent dans la santé publique, et en même temps, il s'est adressé à un défi énorme pour la province. Ça veut dire les coûts de notre système de santé. Il faut avoir la capacité à mieux gérer l'augmentation des coûts à cause de crise fiscale de l'Alberta, avec un déficit de 18 milliards de dollars, avec une économie qui a diminué énormément. Et je félicite le ministre d'avoir négocié une entente en bonne foi. Évidemment, on est déçus avec les résultats du vote, mais nous espérons d'avoir l'occasion de continuer les pourparlers avec l'association médicale aussitôt que possible. And that was the same answer in English. Sorry, go ahead.
I had another question. Maybe I'll ask it in English then, and maybe you can answer in English and in French. But doctors in Lethbridge have been saying recently that they fear that they will lack beds for COVID-19 patients in hospitals in Lethbridge very soon. So what's your reaction to that situation in Lethbridge and the call of these doctors?
Well, okay, I'll do English and French. So one of the reasons I came down here was to meet with local public health experts on exactly that issue, to get a direct and local perspective. I'll be meeting with Dr. Satorp, the South Zone Medical Officer for Health, and Dr. Lowe, the South Zone Medical Director, together with the Mayor, to discuss the COVID trends in this community and region. As I mentioned, the south zone overall is I think has adequate capacity, partly because there are other communities like Medicine Hat with very low numbers. And I am somewhat encouraged to see an apparent stabilization in new COVID cases in this community over the past week or so. I just hope that that continues. But that will be up to how local people respond. We just encourage people in Lethbridge and all across the province to get back to following the public health guidelines. If we all simply followed the guidelines that are in place now and did so carefully, we could bend down the curve, preserve that hospital capacity, and get to the end of this thing in just a few weeks with vaccines. Let us make that our shared goal. Same in French. Une des raisons pour lesquelles je suis venu à Lethbridge est pour rencontrer les officiers de santé publique ici dans la zone du Sud, Dr. Saturp, le directeur médical de santé publique, et Dr. Lowe, son homologue, et le maire Spearman, pour discuter la situation dans ces régions qui nous inquiètent évidemment. Je crois qu'il y a assez de capacité dans les hôpitaux ici, en partie parce qu'il y a des régions dans la zone sud, comme Medicine Hat par exemple, où il y a très peu de cas. Et on a vu dans les derniers jours une stabilisation des nouveaux cas dans cette région. Alors, j'exige que tous les Albertains, y compris les résidents de Lethbridge, suivent soigneusement les mesures de santé publique pour quelques semaines pour que nous puissions sauver la capacité dans les hôpitaux, dans le système de santé avant la fin de la pandémie.
Operator, can you please put through our last caller?
Final question is Rick Bell with the Calgary Sun. Go ahead, Rick.
Good afternoon, Premier. Two-part question, and it is about COVID. How do you react to the daily persistent calls for a lockdown? And they've intensified, especially since the decision in BC. But what is your feeling? What is your gut feeling to these daily persistent calls to go to some kind of a harsh lockdown now? And number two, what do you think about the modeling that people bring up, including at news conferences? Modeling that says we could end up with 5 times the number of daily cases in about a month's time, like 10,000 daily cases in a month's time. So first question is on persistent calls for lockdown. Second question is, what is your reaction to the modeling which shows very, very, very high case numbers in a fairly short time?
Sure. Thanks, Rick. On the first question, Alberta's approach has never been to chase zero COVID. The broader cost to people's lives, to their livelihoods, to our social and economic health would be massive if we were to pursue true lockdown policies. We've never done that in this province. I believe the key signs of a lockdown are stay-at-home orders, curfews, the closure of most businesses, the closure of schools. Even at the height of restrictions a year ago, that did not characterize Alberta's position, where 85% of businesses could continue operating. We've never had stay-at-home orders. We've never had a curfew. Congregate worship has been permitted within certain parameters the whole time, and our schools have been open for in-class instruction with over 700,000 students, teachers, and staff since last August. That's not a lockdown, not to minimize the difficult restrictions that people have had to cope with. And we won't be pursuing that kind of a lockdown, again, because our goal is not to chase after zero, regardless of the damage to people's lives. Our goal, in Alberta at least, is a balanced one. It is a 3-point goal. A, to control viral spread so that we can avoid significant numbers of preventable deaths. Number 2, to protect our healthcare systems and the capacity of our hospitals. And number 3, to minimize the damage on our broader social and economic health resulting from restrictions. I think we've done pretty well at achieving a balance of those 3 goals. We haven't done it perfectly for sure. But I would just say that we are very close to the end of this thing, and we should be very concerned about the new variant-driven growth in cases. It will start significantly to show up in our hospitals. There is no doubt about that. And I'll have more to say about exactly that tomorrow with Dr. Hinshaw. Having said that, I would argue to the hard lockdown advocates, I would point out that we are in a totally different place than we were 6 or 12 months ago. We now have delivered vaccines to over 500,000 Albertans. By the end of this month, it'll be well over 1 million. We probably have 500,000 people, roughly, with natural immunity. So right now, we have about a quarter of our population with some degree of protective immunity. That was not the case 6 or 12 months ago. And we can see by mid to late May, 6 to 8 weeks from now, that we will have had massive coverage of the vaccines. So that's a key fact. Secondly, we have more excess capacity in our ICUs than any of the other large provinces, precisely because Albertans have been doing a good job of controlling this thing in recent months. Thirdly, we've massively expanded our contact tracing operation. We can do now over 2,000 of those a day, and that helps us to jump on cases and outbreaks. Fourthly, we've seen the death rate come down quite significantly ever since we inoculated the residents of our nursing homes. And we're better prepared in general with personal protective equipment, etc. So I would just point those things out. On your second part, question about the first was on lockdown, and what was the second? Modeling. Oh, modeling. Thank you. So, look, one of the reasons, Rick, that we have not published sort of long-term modeling since April is because of the, let me be blunt, extremely poor track record of modeling this pandemic in Canada. The Public Health Agency of Canada published modeling about 5 weeks ago, which has turned out to be completely inaccurate. I think doing things like that, frankly, they only undermine public confidence in the public health response. And so now having said that, Rick, the reality is that if the B17 variant becomes the dominant variant, it is 40 to 80% more contagious than the virus we've been fighting for the past year. It can be more lethal and have a higher chance of putting younger people in hospital. So it has to be taken seriously. I think Dr. Hinshaw has this bang on when she says that we should not fear this virus, but we should respect it, and we should respect this more contagious and lethal variant in particular. I'll have more to say about that tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our Q&A for today.